Did Sean Strickland get lucky or was he born to be a champion? Before we get into that, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe as we have brand new videos every single week. So Fight Week is here and UFC 297 is this Saturday. Mark and I are going to make our predictions. But Mark, my first question to you is though, is UFC 297 a lackluster card?
Definitely. You take a look at the card in total, Dwayne. We've had cards before that are extremely top heavy. This is like a head. That's it, and the rest of the body just crumbles. It's just not a very good card, is it? I mean, it's
No.
probably a reflection on us getting spoiled as fans, especially last year in 2023. It seemed to be a super fight almost every month. But are you even interested in the rest of the card?
No, to be honest, I'm barely interested in the main event. It feels like a fight night throughout. You know, we're so used to seeing Strickland heading up fight nights in the Apex. You could stick this on the Apex, take away the gold. I won't know the difference. It really, really feels like a really lackluster fight night. And it's such a shame. I wanted a big pay-per-view to open up the year. But, you know, there's some fun cards coming up. But, you know, it is what it is. But I tell you what makes this card slightly more interesting, and now that's the rivalry between Du Plessis and Sean Strickland. Do you think it's made this much more interesting for you, Mark, seeing some guy wailing on some other guy's dad who abused him?
Yeah, I think we probably shouldn't laugh through that there, Dwayne, but yeah, I think it does make it more interesting. It does make it more interesting. If it was anyone else other than Sean Strickland, I'd think, oh, it's all false, it's all for clout. But with Sean Strickland, you believe it, don't you?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just a gullible fan and it's all just a big master plan, but I don't believe someone that thick could construct this magic rivalry and the start of this back
No.
and forth, the trash talk that they've had. I think it does strengthen the interest in this actual fight itself because obviously you've got the altercation and obviously they're going to play that in the promo video
Yeah, of
where
course they are.
got Gilbert Burns' son out of the way and then just started wailing on him. The trash talk, the press conference. It's going to be great. It's going to be
Yeah.
like two preschoolers going at it, but it's going to be good nevertheless. It's going to be better than Colby and Masvidal.
Yeah, the build-ups now made this card much, much more exciting. But it's a shame that it's had to come to that. You know, it feels like the UFC should just be putting on good cards. We don't need this rivalry. And, you know, jokes aside, I think Du Plessis probably did go a step too far. I mean, but it is what it is, isn't it? You know, I'm not here to make a moral judgment on people. I'm just here to be entertained, and that's literally it. So let's move on from abusive fathers very, very quickly, and let's get on to our predictions. So we'll start with the main event. Sean Strickland is facing Dricus Du Plessis for his first title defense. How do you think this fight goes and why?
I think Sean absolutely obliterates Driscus, to be honest. I think Sean's been around for too long. He's too regular. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's a cardio machine. Have you seen the pictures of him lately? He's put on some size. Maybe he's
Looking
gearing up.
jacked.
Maybe he wants a big knockout. I know muscles don't mean that, but you know what I mean. I
Yeah.
just think he's too well rounded for Driscus. I swear, and I will die on this hill, that Driscus got lucky against Rob. That was a 1 in 100 chance of him catching Rob Whittaker. I just think that Sean's going to be able to, it's as cliche as it sounds, take Driscus into the deep waters somewhere that he hasn't been because Sean can go all day. Could be a 15-round fight and he'd still be the same.
Yeah, that's the big issue, isn't it? It's the cardio, and that's where I'm really struggling with my pick. I think this fight's such a difficult one to choose because, you know, I think both of them have clear technical flaws, and it always seems a little bit sloppy when either of them fight, but they both get the job done. But I'm picking Du Plessis by decision, and the reason for that is I think Strickland gets a lot of his offense off as the person's backing off, and he's got that room to breathe, and he catches them coming in and out. Whereas Du Plessis doesn't back up. He only moves forward. He's literally full gear, straight forward, going the whole way. And I don't think he's going to give Strickland that chance to breathe that he needs. And I think Strickland has shown issues with his takedown defense before. And Du Plessis now shown to me that he's an incredibly decent striker. I think he's a former kickboxing champion. He's got fantastic wrestling, and I think he's just going to outpower Strickland and just have that physical strength to just hold him down and grind him over 5 rounds. This all depends on his cardio and how that'll all play out for him. Do you think though, Mark, with Du Plessis and how he's shown the problems with his cardio before, do you think with this being his first ever 5 round fight, this is going to be a big problem for him?
I think it could definitely be a factor that it is 5 rounds, but I think his biggest problem is Sean Strickland's pace.
Mm,
Because you watch Sean, he comes over. Let's take the Adesanya fight, for example. He's dictating the pace, constantly keeping them teeps active, sort of thing. And I think he's just going to sap Dricus's, any of his cardio, any of his stamina. He's going to keep him at distance, and I think he's just going to pick at him. I
mm,
don't know if I know I said that he might be gearing up for a knockout, but that's just speculation. I don't know how I think he's going to get it done. Maybe by decision, because I think
yeah.
Dricus is just going to be a sweaty, out of breath mess at the end of it, similar to me after one flight of stairs. And I think that Sean's just going to be there. We're not a mark on him,
No.
and retained. That's his first title defense in the bag. What a way to start 2024.
Yeah, you could be right for sure. But, sort of talking about Strickland and where you were saying, oh, you think he's going to be looking at for that knockout. It seemed that Strickland's very, very emotional in the build up to this fight. Do you think that's going to play into this at all?
It Again, it could do. If it was any other fight, you'd think no, there'd be more composed than this in order to that champion's mentality, all that kind of thing. But it's Sean Strickland, isn't it? He was over winning the title 5 minutes after winning it. So I
Yeah.
think that he's probably going to be fighting emotionally, maybe come out headhunting. That could be a factor, actually. Yeah, I didn't think of that. I think it all depends on how the press conference goes. See
Yeah.
what other personal flaws that they can dig up. They can sit there with the little needle, digging them up and just, yeah, exploiting them to the world. And we'll see how Sean reacts because he could be fighting emotionally. And like I said, any other fighter, that wouldn't be a factor. But with Sean Strickland, yeah, it definitely could be.
This is make or break for Strickland, isn't it? We've always spoke about this champion mindset, and if Strickland lets Du Plessis get into his head, then he's not made to be a champion, is he? He needs to keep level-headed and just move forward and not worry about all this stuff, wash it all out. But unfortunately, I'm not sure that's going to happen. I think he is going to come in emotional, maybe start headhunting and get caught, but we'll have to wait and see. So, Mark, let's look at the rest of this card. To be honest, it's pretty dog shit. So let's do quick fire, rapid predictions. So moving on to the most exciting fight of the night, we have Pennington versus Silva. How do you think this match plays out, and who do you think is coming out as champion?
I'm I'm gonna go Raquel Pennington just for sheer experience, and that's all I've got, Dwayne. I'm sorry to say I can't elaborate on that. It's
Yeah.
like you said, you forget that this is for the title. And like you've got to be constantly reminded, don't you? There's been no backstory, no nothing, no rivalry. It's just been thrown together. Oh, you might as well have a title shot.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you think? Have you got a prediction for this fight?
Yeah, exactly the same as you. I'm going Pennington because of the experience. Because Pennington, she's pretty decent everywhere. She's got decent striking, she's got good grappling, she's got some decent submissions. She's pretty well rounded, and she's lost to the best of the best. And there's no shame in losing to those kind of fighters. And I think her experience is going to take her through 5 rounds. I think that's what's going to get the win. And I'm not sure if Silva's going to be able to handle that sort of pressure. So then we move on to Neil Magny versus Mike Mallet. What's your prediction for this fight and why?
I think Mike Mallett's going to be able to get it done. I think Neil Magny's day is almost over. He's just at the last end of his career. Mike Mallett's only lost once, don't forget. He's had one draw after 10 wins, and I think that he's going to be able to take Neil Magny, probably finish him, to be honest. Neil doesn't seem to have been there for the last few of his fights, and I just don't think he's going to be able to have the capacity to be able to get an up and comer out of there. What do you think?
Yeah, again, I'm following you exactly the same. I'm picking Mallet here, but for different reasons. I don't think he is going to get a finish. I think Mallet's got some great submissions under his belt, and he's got some decent striking and great forward pressure. But Neil's no slouch, but he's not quite what he was he? If this fight was a few years ago, I'd be picking Neil Magny all the way, but he's just not that fighter anymore, and age has
Yeah.
really caught up with him. I think Mallet's going to be chasing submissions for the whole fight, but Neil Magny's going to fend them off just, and I think Mallet's going to get a decision here and going to win by points. Then we move on, Mark, to Chris Curtis against what's his name? Marc-André. That's it. I can't believe I forgot who he is then. Do you think Chris Curtis can get finally back into the win column?
I mean, it's just a personal choice. I hope not, because I think he's a bit of a baby, to be honest. But again, it's one of them fights where I can't even pretend that, I'm that invested in it because I don't really know either fighter too well. Chris Curtis is always kind of there on a card, but he's not the main draw at the time. So he just happens to be someone that you catch maybe the tail end of his fights before you finally turn on the event when you wake up in your bed.
Yeah.
But Chris, he's well experienced. He's got a lot more experience than Mark. It just depends. A losing skid or when you've been flailing up and down, it's kind of hard to come back. I don't really have a prediction to go. I'll go Mark just because he'll probably seem hungry and Chris is a great stepping stone for him, to be
Yeah.
honest. And obviously with the last few fights, he might feel like he's got a blueprint on how to beat Chris Curtis.
That's the issue, isn't it? Because what comes with a lot of experience also comes with a lot of tape. There's now a lot of fights you can watch on Chris Kurtz go, right, this is exactly how he fights. This is how I can beat him, right? It's kind of a double-edged sword in some ways. But I'm going to go the opposite to you, Mark. Finally, at last, we've got a different pick. I'm going Chris Curtis. I think Chris Curtis is a fantastic counterpuncher. That seems to be what his whole foundation, his whole base is based on, is countering. And Marc-André puts a lot of pressure and he moves forward constantly. And I think that'll give chance to Chris Curtis to get that counterpunch and get a big KO. I'm thinking maybe the third round or maybe to the end of the second. But if Chris Curtis doesn't step on that gas and doesn't get that counter, he can be losing a points decision quite easily here because of that high pressure that Mark's going to put on. So we move on to our boy Arnold Allen. Is going up against Mosfar Asalov. I think that's how you say his name. What's your prediction for this fight and why?
It's a silly question asking. I can't go against Arnold Allen. He's one of the unsung sort of heroes and the dark horse of this card because we love Arnold Allen. Like, on this channel, we've always spoke very highly of him, always tune in for his fights. He's fought the best of the best. And I think this is him, obviously with Movsar, he's is it number 9 ranked or something?
Something like that. He's very low down.
We've spoke about this before, haven't we? Is this a step down for Arnold Allen? But if he gets through him, it's a big step up, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like if he can get through him, it's like, okay, yeah, you do belong at this division here. It's a kind of, you could look at it as in, why is he taking this fight? But then you could look at it as a win-win. If Movsar beats Arnold Allen, it's a great stepping stone for him. If Arnold Allen does it, no, I'm still here. I still belong here. Maybe I just had a lap. Was his last fight at Holloway? I'd slipped up there against Holloway, but where's the shame in losing to Max Holloway? There is, and it might be a good tune-up fight. I hate saying that word, but you know what I mean, because it sounds like you're picking fights. I think Arnold Allen is going to come out swinging with a point to prove. I do belong in this featherweight division. I am one of the best, and he will be champion one day. I think he's going to get a big knockout.
Hopefully you're right. I'm picking Arnold Allen as well, but I'm going by decision. Arnold Allen is a great fighter. I think he's absolutely fantastic. And yes, that is a bit of bias talking. I don't care. He's got some really good striking. He's got some decent grappling, and he's got some explosive power. But this Mosavar guy, he's got fantastic wrestling. He's a great grappler. He's got fantastic takedowns. He struggles with the control time. I think a lot of people get back up quite easily, and Arnold Allen is no slouch in the grappling department. I think he's got like 75% takedown defense. So if he can keep defending these takedowns, I think he can get the offense off and start racking up these points and getting the decision win. But, like what you were saying before, is this kind of a step down for Arnold Allen? In some ways it is, but I think because the featherweight division is so hit and miss at the moment, it feels like we're running out of contenders. Do you think a win here for Arnold Allen, assuming Volk gets through Ilataporia, gets Arnold Allen a title shot?
I think so. He fell short of his last attempt at the title by not defeating Max Holloway, but this is almost like a second path. He's discovered another way. If he gets through him, surely he could maybe even one more fight. But at the same time, when you fought the who's who of that division, almost, except from the champion and Tuporia, he got that close by fighting Max Holloway. It doesn't mean that he's got to take the long way around now. Just one more fight and then bang, he's straight back there. So I'd love to be able to see, imagine Volkanovski versus Arnold Allen. I don't know who I'd be pulling for, to be honest.
That's a tricky one. I really, really don't know who I'd be supporting there because Volkanovski is probably my favorite fighter at the moment, and Arnold Allen's really, really coming up there. And I love him to bits. I'm a big, big fan. So it's a really, really tricky one, isn't it? But I think Arnold Allen will get a title shot after a win of here because if Volk beats Ilitopora, he's beaten everyone else. Arnold Allen is the only top contender he's not yet fought. So I think it will get him a title shot. But Mark, as lackluster, should I say, as this card is there any other fights that you're interested perhaps on the prelims or anything?
Polyana Vienna, 100%. I think she's the greatest fighter that's ever lived. I think she can get it done. Always tune in for her fights, never miss one. Sometimes I watch them back later on after the event's finished. She's fighting Gillian Anderson, is it? Robertson?
Robertson, I think, yeah.
Robertson, yeah. I mean, I can't, it just went a bit of a blur then for some reason, but yeah, I'll be tuning in for that fight. I didn't know there was any other fights on the prelims, to be honest.
Well, Mark, there's Brad Katona on there, Charles Jourdain. I think they'll be really, really fun fights. And I think, to be honest, it's a bit of a shame that they're on the prelims, especially someone like Charles Jourdain and Brad Katona. Brad's just come off the win off the Ultimate Fighter. Charles Jourdain is always, always exciting. And it feels like he could be one of the next big stars. And I think it's a shame that he's pushed all the way down on these prelims, especially when the card's not so stacked. But overall, UFC 297 is quite disappointing. But, maybe it could surprise us, and there are some more exciting cards for the rest of the year. Thank you for watching. If you can like, comment, and subscribe, it really does help us out.